Good evening, everybody. We're going to kind of go through what we did today a little in class, and we were pretty much along the way, but we're going to go start from the beginning as I laid out and went in the other room to make a copy, even though we could have plotted and provided you the CAD drawing. You realize how quickly doing CAD is, you kind of just do it because it makes your brain feel good. I am starting with this kind of a base template which has got some things already defined for me, like some attributes and whatever else, and I'm going to clean it all out by saying thaw everything, turn everything on, as I'm turning off my keyboard here, and then I'm going to kind of start back from base one, realizing that it makes sense very often to set my first, more or less my first support at 0, 0, though UCS we can do what we want. So I'm typing minus, hopefully as my keyboard comes in, minus LAT for thaw, star, on, star, turning everything on, thawing everything, and then getting rid of everything. And then of course then remembering that I probably have a bunch of, if I've laid this out, a bunch of views, so I can do, once again, clicking to home here, V for view, and I can grab all of my views here, A all the way down through. It will let me delete them all. Doesn't look like it. I can grab one, shift, can't do it. I'm just going to hit delete, 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 getting rid of all my views, and even the plot view, never hurts. Apply, and then more or less going to the correct layers. And if I've started with a basic nice drawing, well, let's see, geometry spine works for me. And I think I laid from clicking from point 0, 0, I went at 42 at a 0 elevation, or a 0 angle, and I believe it was 412, so I'm going to left click, spacebar, spacebar. Now that's not going to work in this program, so instead I do a line from the endpoint here at 12, 4, and I grab on this, I left click, spacebar, 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 B for base point. My new base point is going to be from the endpoint of that. No, from the, I'm doing shift right clicks to get to the midpoint of that. I turn on, the ortho was already on, I click on that, and I forgot of course to do copies, so left click, spacebar, 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 C for copy, B for base point, shift right click, midpoint of there. You have ortho on, and you're good. Now I can fill it. Radius 0. And I've got my spine basically drafted. Now I'm going to show you, because I have already defined in here an attribute which is called the node block. I'm going to show you how the divide works when you have a block. And I'm going to divide this one up into 1, 2, I think A, B, C. I think D was at the top. So I think when I laid that through, I can do this. I can go up and realize, yeah, it's a point command someplace in here, but the command is divide. And we almost always use it with the block. And we're going to say B for block, and we need to know the name of the block, and I think it was called node. Block. The line block, sure, number of segments is 4, and we'll see whether this anything actually occurred when I did it by saying minus layer, thaw, star, on, star. And whether or not it actually divided up is a good question. So if I do a list window here, there's your block. Now, DDATTE, it actually doesn't let me do that. And I'm going to go ahead and double check where are all my blocks. They didn't lay them in, so we're going to then give up on that. And instead we'll just do the divide and put points on. But before we want to do that, you're going to see I'm going to go ahead and get it set to geometry, the nodes, and I'm going to now do a divide. And now I'm going to realize object divide is that, and we're going to do it 4 blocks. And there are my points. I can now do the same thing here, divide this here. Number of segments is 4. There's my points, and then this one, number of segments is 6. Now, of course, I would also like to go ahead and put a point at each of my nodes, which are not. So I'm going to do a point at the end point there, and then a point at the end point there. That one's wrong. E window, point at the end point there. Now, these, of course, all of my nodes for this drawing are actually laid out. I'm not sure whether this is in fact is in all correct, but I do believe that if I now go ahead and draft over the top, I would get all my nodes. But now I want to go ahead and do an insert, which I have tried before. Go ahead and do the node block, and I'm going to tell it I want to start with my node block at the end point there, and my rotation angle there. I'm going to call that A. Now I can go ahead and copy this all the way around the pike, and then DDATTE is what I'm going to use. At that point, it'd be nice to go Shift right click, Object Snap Settings, set them up to be just the node, and now copy this all the way around the pike, and now from there to there to there, I'm turning off the F8 to there to there. And you will see all great tools reside in Express Tools. So I'm going all the way through here. But now I can go do DDATTE and make that B with the caps on, etc. I'm going to pause as I do that through. Now looking at this, I realize I haven't drafted the exact same structure that we had within class, but I'm going to keep on with it just because the general sense of what we're doing is going to be the same. So I'm going to erase this out. I've got a set of nodes set up. I would like to now probably learn to draft the members, geometry members, in the way, once again, node or insert is going to be good. I'm now going to draft on top. I'm going to go from there to there to there to there to there. And then I'll think about how I make this generally. If I see that long node is what I went through here. Now I'm going to see the nodes here. And this is not obviously the same one we did in class, but I want to point out that the concepts are the same. I've laid these out now in some way, shape, or form. I don't even know if this is statically determinate or not, but I have laid out the geometry and the members, and now I can actually put in the forces applied, and I can more or less start applying my forces line from the end point here. We said we're going to do a force up. We're going to hit F8, one direction here, and we can copy that through. Remember, we're applying the unit force in the X direction. And I'm turning off my F8 to the node. I don't even need to do anything more. I'm going to add a node there. Go all the way through. Node, node. And I'm going to finish this out and then also draft in not only that, but another line from the end point there in the positive F8 direction 1 in the unit there, and that is my unit Y vector. So I'm going to pause this and finish up the rest of the drafting. Try to keep this a little bit shorter as I go through, and then talk about the effect of a unit force. Because I go through and edit this, I now have laid out the unit X and the unit Y force in each one of these in a positive direction. I've shown here basically at A the reaction forces, and at I the reaction force up. I'm going to pause as I dimension, but I'm getting things set up in layers. Zooming here because of course I've got things set up in layers, but I want to grab all the dimensions here. So I'm going to grab across here and grab across here, and I want to put that in the correct layer, so you generally better have at some point. If we don't have it, you better make one. I'm using Z a lot. Minus layer, new, Z underscore dimension. C for color, red, Z underscore, it's not working for me, Z underscore dimension. So you start to see how important it is once you get a good, and so now I can take each of these things, come across the top here, come across the bottom here with and change that to the Z dimension layer. Last thing I'll do, I'm going to pause and basically remember dim style. All of a sudden you want to look at things, you modify. Standard is always an odd one. You go to the text and you have the change. It should be much higher than 0.15, but really you look at the fit tab and you say maybe 3 is going to work. Set current, close, and basically you start to see things as they look. Thanks for listening. We'll have a little bit more in a sec.